I mean, there's so much going on right now, and just the whole immigration thing. Yeah, can we start there?
Yeah, let's
Let's
go.
start there. This whole immigration thing, this whole ICE rating, going like to Home Depot, going to Home Depot, going to vendors, street vendors at the time when there's graduations, like this is graduation time right now. This is when people are culminating, people are graduating, and it just sends fear. It says fear to air, a lot of families. What's your opinion about all this going on right now? It's a lot, right?
Uh-huh.
I'll start. I'm gonna start because I have my thoughts on this, and you know, um, one thing for sure is fear. One thing for sure is fear, and I'll just give an example. We had our culmination, and just for a safety precaution, our culmination started at 9 o'clock, and we opened our doors, but we had everybody come in. We didn't want anybody standing outside, so we had all the families come in an hour ahead of schedule, so they could be inside the school where it's safe. you know, and attendance it has been down. Attendance has been down. My school year ended already, but attendance was down. I think it sends a lot of fear to all the families. I can imagine if you're a high school student and you're worried about your mom, you're worried about your dad, your grandfather, your grandmother, and somebody asks you for your phone, and you're like, wow. I don't know if I want to give up my phone because I want to make sure that my family's okay. I want to make sure that if I need to call somebody or they're going to contact me, I need to know immediately. So this whole fear thing, disrupting our school, disrupting our graduations, our culminations, it's terrible.
I don't think anyone should ever be afraid of going outside,
Hmm.
just even going to get their basic necessities, going to the grocery store. Um, Definitely, when all this started back in January, I have been a teacher for 12 years now. So a lot of my sixth graders have graduated high school, and some of them are in high school, and I keep in touch with a few of them who I became really close with their families. And a particular student reached out to me around mid January, and he was basically asking me for advice. What do I do? Because of his situation and his family situation, he was scared to go to school.
Yeah.
He was afraid to go to school. Um, I did, kind of talk to him about how California, we're sanctuary state, or at least we are, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I did let him know that um, because of our, education system, and that he would be safe at school, at least.
Hmm.
um, but I feel like being able to see all sides of this is is really scary. Um, at one point, I was an immigrant here too, so it's it's scary. Um, I was here in the early 2000s as an immigrant, and it wasn't until like 2005 that we were able to get our paperwork sorted, just because my dad was able to fix his residency through the amnesty in the 1980s. So we just got lucky,
Yeah.
but not many people are lucky like that. Um, and then when people talk about doing it the right way, even if you do it the right way, um, now we're seeing kids being detained.
Yes.
Um, the little boy in Torrance who has now been deported.
Hmm.
I mean, how do you even
Doing it the
explain?
right way. Doing it the
Yeah,
right way. You get detained doing it the right way. Yeah. That's so. It's such a sad, tragic thing. Like I don't even know how to wrap my head around all of it. Because there's a lot of sides to it. There's a lot of things going on. I personally, I'm like third generation Mexican, um, but you know, my son, let's just take we live right here by downtown LA. We live right here by downtown LA, right? And there's this curfew right here in downtown LA where, you got to be in by 8 o'clock. So we're telling my son like, hey, you need to be in by 8 o'clock. You need to be, he's 20, he's 21. You need to be home by 8 o'clock. We don't want you to get picked up. Who knows where they're gonna put you. Who knows what's gonna happen to you. Make sure you have your wallet with you. Make sure you have your ID with you. Um, that's tragic. It's sad, and then you see all the stuff on social media, and I don't know. I don't know. I haven't been to any of these gatherings at all. I drive through the 101 freeway every day, and I see that all the cop cars. I see all of. Sometimes the freeway will be stopped. I'll see like the police officers jumping onto the freeway. So it's just a lot of fear, a lot of chaos. And I could see it. It's definitely from the police standpoint where they're just doing their job. Like they're just doing they're being ordered to be out there and keep order, and people are throwing things at them and they're shouting things at them, and it just causes more chaos, and it's almost like that's what they wanted to happen, and they're
For
getting
sure.
exactly what they
What they
wanted.
want. Yeah. They want people to be angry. What could be, um, from the things that I've seen, I haven't been out to any of these either. Um, but I feel like from the outside looking in, it does look like that they want people to react and not in a positive way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um,
So they could say, look at these animals. Look at these animals right here. They deserve to be deported. Look at them. Look at them throwing rocks at, the police officers. They don't respect authority. Like this whole thing, and it's just a sad, again, sad situation. Um, and if I just bring it back to we're educators, when I bring it back to schools, it just sends fear. It sends fear to families and to students, and like you go to school and then your parents get picked up, and then now who are you living with now? What's gonna happen to you? Like that's scary, right? So kids, I'm
yeah,
sure attendance is gonna be down. Next school year, who knows how long this is gonna last? And then funding gets cut because people aren't in school,
school.
and then schools won't have the necessary resources, right? And who goes to LA schools? Mostly
Exactly.
minorities,
Hmm.
mostly Latino. Like who
Hmm.
who goes to these schools? So it's a terrible situation.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't. At the school that I teach in, high population of Latino communities. We actually have a pocket of a lot of watermelon families, um, lots of dialect. I love where I work because I feel like I'm a Mexican. I was born in Mexico, but I never got to experience other cultures outside of that.
Yeah.
And being at the school that I'm at now, it's I love it. Like when a parent tells me that they speak dialect, I immediately ask, okay, how do you say this and how do you say
Mhm.
that? Because it's sometimes some of these dialects are just spoken, right? There's no written record of them. It's just a spoken language.
Yeah.
Um, but I definitely see the fear, um, in my students, and especially because I teach sixth grade, a lot of my students are responsible for their little siblings. They go pick up their little siblings and then they walk home.
Hmm.
Um, how do I explain to them, like, you can't be out in the street like that? Like, you need to have an adult with you, or when it's a neighborhood that they've always felt safe in. And
Yeah.
now it doesn't seem like it is.
No, no, it doesn't feel safe at all. Doesn't feel safe at all. Again, I live right here by downtown, like right by the 101 freeway. I could hear the helicopters, I could hear the sirens, I could see the freeway being stopped. I choose not to walk down to City Hall. I could walk to City Hall from where I'm at right here. I jog through there probably like three times a week. I pass by City Hall, by the concert right there, the concert center, Disney, whatever it's called right there. I pass by there every morning at least 3 times a week, so I could walk down there. But I'm like, I don't want to get caught up in that. I don't know. I don't. It just seems, from what I see on social media, it's just a pretty chaotic, and I don't know if I want to get caught up in all that.
Yeah.
But again, it's tragic, and it sends fear to our students and to our families. And I hope that they resolve. There comes to some sort of resolution. I don't even know how you resolve this. I don't
I
know how you even the genie's out the bottle. Like, it's already like, how
yeah.
do you fix? How do you? It's like putting toothpaste back in the tube. Like, how do you? How do you stop? What do
And
you?
everything that's happening all around. I am about an hour and some minutes from downtown LA. Um, Even here, there's posts on our local Facebook pages,
Mm,
giving people a heads up, like, "Hey, don't go to this store," and it's the uh, markets, the Hispanic markets, the Mexican
mm-hmm,
market.
mm-hmm.
Don't go to this store because there's ICE presence. And I think the scariest part too is that a lot of these vehicles are unmarked. They are not identifiable at all, and it's really scary.
Yeah,
But
because
it's
that leaves you
scary.
with, like, let's say there's real criminals who put a mask over their face and get in a van and kidnap a girl and say that they're ICE and tie you up in zip ties and put you in their van. You're gonna get deported. Like, that's what's happening. You got these
Mhm.
people in these masks who don't identify themselves, who are in these trucks, who just kind of just swoop up and grab people. Like, that's
Yeah,
and
that's
so
crazy.
I'm sure that criminals, like people that are really trying to harm, people that are kidnappers trying to harm, I don't know, that I feel like that's an in for them to mimic something like this and get away with it.
Yeah,
That my I was it was a family friend. It was explained to us that on his job, he works for some sort of, they make cards or something. um ICE came and just went into his business, his factory, whatever, and they just took people. Just I guess they got a tip, and they just took a bunch of people. Just went to the business and just took people. That's crazy. That's
yeah,
Yeah. So it's a strange way to end the school year. It's
very strange.
it's a
Um,
tragic, sad,
yeah,
strange way.
I guess in a way, I feel like it's good that we're on break.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I honestly I can't imagine being in the classroom at this moment and having my students ask me a bunch of questions.
Hmm.
Because what do you say? What do you say?
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah.
I wouldn't know what to say.
I wouldn't know what to say either. I'm no expert in any of this stuff. I'm
Yeah,
just an observer. I see what's going on. I can see all sides. I can see how there's fear amongst the police officers. Most of the police, I saw this video where this guy had a phone. He was like, "Oh, look at, there's Sanchez and there's Hernandez," and he's naming off all these Latino last names who are police officers on the front line, who maybe they don't want to be there, but they have to be there because that's their job, and
yeah,
they have a family to go to. They need to go home. Those people also need to go home and be with their family, and so they're afraid as well. And
yeah,
fear never is the right way to, I don't know, control a situation. I don't know, I'm not a big fan of fear.
it's like in the classroom, right?
If we
You
bring it back to classroom, if you bring that classroom and everybody's scared to do anything, you know that you can't run a classroom based on
yeah,
fear. You can't. You want to feel comfortable. You want to feel safe. When you
yeah,
feel safe, you're able to express yourself and take risks and do better. But if you're fearful, you can't take those risks. You don't want to speak up. You don't want to ask a question because you might, something might happen. And so it's the same in the classroom. You're
yeah.
right. You're right. So if we bring it back to the classroom, your sixth grade, how was your year?
It was actually pretty good.
That's good
I
news.
um, had some incidents for sure, um, but I feel like overall, in a nutshell, I want to say it went pretty well. I know it wasn't perfect, and I know um, some of my colleagues don't agree with me that it was a good school year. um, but I feel like I had a really good year.
That's
Um,
good.
there's definitely a lot going on at the
Hmm.
moment. We
Hmm.
are getting bombarded with a new report card, new math, new language arts curriculum.
Hmm.
We're adopting science curriculum. So next school year, I will definitely feel like a brand new teacher because all of these
Yeah.
changes are insane.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure. I'm sure. What made your year such a good year?
My kids, I always go back to my kids. I feel like, and I pride myself in making great connections with my kids and my families. And I feel like that is what keeps me going every single day. Um, just knowing that I am a safe person for all of my kids. And I was able to see that a lot of them were struggling with a lot of things no
Hmm.
sixth grade should be dealing with.
Hmm.
Um, and just being their safe person, that just shows me that my purpose is greater than just teaching
Yeah.
curriculum.
How do you become that safe person? How do you become that person where students confide in you and they feel safe around you? How does that work? Because I don't think people need to know how that's done.
I'm going to quote you now because every time you post a video, I feel like I always comment or try to leave some type of message because I feel like I resonate a lot with what you say. That it's definitely an investment. You need to invest in your kids, in every single one of them. Not just like superficially, but you need to get to know who's in your classroom, who needs what, who
Hmm.
is going through stuff. The only way you get to do that is by getting to know them. And the only
Hmm.
way you do that is by investing. And it takes time, a lot of
Hmm.
time.
It
But
does.
um, you really need to pay attention to what they say, what they write, their comments. Even when they interrupt the class, what are they talking about when they're interrupting? What are
Hmm.
they doing to interrupt the class? Are they seeking attention? Are they um, wanting a friend's attention? Are they wanting your attention? Like, what is it that's going on? Because every little thing the kids do is a clue as to who they are as a person. And when you get to know that person, then like you got them in the bag and
Yeah.
they can
Yeah.
they will literally want to do stuff for you.
Yes. Yes. I totally 100% agree with that. But what do you say to a teacher who says, "I don't have time to do any of that. I don't have time to build these relationships. I don't have time to invest and listen to what they have to say and look at all these tiny little details to figure that I don't I'm just here and I don't have time for that. I have so many students." What would you
Then
say to that?
you will suffer the consequences later because as hard as we try to stick to the curriculum and let's stick to the timeline and you know we don't have enough time to teach everything that we need to teach. We already don't have time. So
Hmm. Yeah,
any new teachers out there, you will not have time to get through everything.
that's right.
Um, yeah, there's a pacing guide and there's curriculum, and they tell you, oh yeah, you should be able to get through this in so many weeks. Lies.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's just a paper, and unless you're in a classroom with humans, then the
Yeah.
timeline of that varies. Um, so yeah, like it does take time, it's time consuming, and that could be an argument that we don't have time, there's not enough time for that. But then at the end of the year or after every school break, you are going to pay for that time because you're still going to be wasting time trying to redirect and trying to bring them back in because you did not make that investment early on.
Yeah, and it doesn't even take a lot of time. I'll
No.
just say that it doesn't take a lot of time. It could, when you're lining them up to pick them up from your class, you say good morning to everyone, and if you notice something, you walk through your lines, you know something, you point it out. Hey, like I like that shirt. I like your shoes. You got some new shoes. You got a haircut. That's awesome. You
Yep.
know, you're just making these little connect. You know, and you notice who's not giving you eye contact, and you notice who's looking the other way, and you notice who's seeking attention, and you catch all of those cues, and then you just make your little connections.
Yeah.
It could be that simple, and they come in the classroom, and it could be, just little tiny pieces of connections. It doesn't have to be this just intense. Tell me all about your life.
Yes.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be any of that. It could be like real small things, like,
For sure.
and when you're gonna, when the new year starts, when the new year starts, and you get your new class, it's like, okay, let me make these tiny little connections. Let me make these connect, and get deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And you keep doing that over and over and over. And you're in August, you're in September. Then you could probably get even deeper connections. They're opening it up sometime in there, and you're just making these connections. And then you're sharing yourself,
For
because you have
sure.
to be a person. You have to be a real person, right? You can't be this robotic. You have to share yourself. I got a dog. Here's a picture of my dog. Um, Last weekend I went to go see that movie or whatever. I like whatever it is. You're sharing about your life too, they'll ask you about it. They'll ask you about your life. If you make those connections, they'll start to ask you personal questions about your life. Like,
Mhm.
I don't know. They've always asked me. One of the biggest questions is, "What happened to your hair, Mr. Vergara?" That's what you're. I was like, I have hair. Look at, I have hair.
It's
I just
there.
shave it every day. But they ask questions, and just that simple question, where they feel comfortable enough to be like, "What happened to your hair, Mr. Vergara?" And I'm like, "I shave it every day. I get some shaving cream. I put it
It's
on my
there.
every morning. I swear, look, I have it. You see it, but I shave every morning." Um, Simple things like that. Simple things like that. Fist bump, saying good morning. That goes a long way.
And I think it's also the way we respond to those questions.
Hmm.
The
Yeah.
way that we receive and respond to the questions says a lot about ourselves too.
Yeah, yeah, because it will go back to fear. If somebody asks me a question and then I shut them down real fast,
Hmm.
I just shut them down. Like, What happened to your hair, Mr. Vergara? Hey, don't talk about my hair like that. Hey, don't talk about my hair.
Hmm.
If I did that, I'm never gonna ask that guy another question the whole year. Forget that. I'll never talk. I'll never ask him a question again. That's what's gonna happen if I just shut him down. And so you're right. It's how you receive these questions. What are you doing to receive these questions?
Yeah.
So yeah. So your year was good though.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Um,
Okay.
there was an incident actually um, with a student who I was warned about, um, and I always try to answer the question why. Why? What's going on? Because there has to be an underlying issue. Something is happening that is making the student react and behave a certain way in school.
Hmm.
Something is happening. Um, it got to a point where this student called me the B word
Hmm.
to another friend, but I overheard her say it.
Hmm.
So then I never take things personal because it's not about me. It's never about me. And that's also an advice to new teachers. Don't ever take things personal. It's never about you. It's about them.
Yeah.
Um, so I kept her and I talked to her about it. And at first she denied it. And then I just told her, hey, look, I overheard you say it. And I understand why you're saying that because I am pushing you, right? And you don't like that. um, she started crying. And what I told her was, if you think that you calling me that is going to make me push you less, you're wrong. You're wrong because I care about you and I will always care about you, even if you think that I'm that. It's
Yeah.
fine. It doesn't matter to me. It doesn't hurt my feelings. I am not mad at you. If that's a reaction you wanted from me, you are not getting that from me. I am not upset. I get you're going through things. She started crying. Um, she was sent to the counselor. After that, we had another conversation, and she apologized to me. She's like, and I told her, look, I know it's not about me. I know it's not about me, but I'm always gonna care, even if you don't want me to care. I am
Yeah.
always going to care. After that, it was like a 180,
That's good.
complete change.
There's this idea that if you build relationship with students, you're soft. You're soft because you build relationships and you don't hold high standards. You don't hold high academic and behavior standards. What do you have to say about that?
It's the opposite. It's the other way around.
Hmm.
Because when I could have easily let the student go to the office and get detention,
Yeah.
and then what?
Yeah.
What is that going to teach her? Nothing.
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 The
She's going
hard.
to be more angry. She's
Hmm.
going to be more upset because I sent her to the office and I'm just picking on her all the time. And then now she's in the office because of me. And that was going to teach her nothing. Um,
Yeah. But the hard part is going back to talk to you to be like, sorry, this is what happened. This is what I did. This is how I felt about it. That's the hard part.
yeah.
And that's what that's holding high standards. That's making sure that you're not breaking this connection with this student. No, you wanted to resolve it. Let's resolve it. Let's talk it out. Because the hardest part is to talk that whole situation out.
Yes.
It's easy to be like, you got 30 minutes of detention.
Yeah.
Go to the detention room right there.
That's an easy
That's
way out.
easy.
Yeah.
That's anybody could do that.
Hmm.
Go over here. Go get detention. Go. That's easy. It's that conversation.
Yeah. And
It's
what
that
I've always
conversation. Yeah.
taught my students, and I've always preached to them every single time, you have to own it. You have to
Mhm.
own it, whether you make a mistake, whether you said something about somebody that you weren't supposed to say. You have to own it. Own it, but it's how you move forward from that.
Mhm.
That it's going to show whether you're truly sorry or you're just saying it because you have to say it.
Yeah. And do you hold high academic standards, even though
Of
you
course.
build relationships with
Yeah,
students?
of course. Um, yeah, like it was crazy. This school year, actually, every year I have a lot of kids who just don't turn things in, and I'm just like, I need to see where you're at. Like, I can't see if you don't even show me what you know.
Yeah.
I feel like this year was the lowest percentage of that we had, which was crazy. Um, and as soon as I started noticing like they were turning things in and doing things on time, every time I noticed it, I praised the whole class, and they ate it up. They loved
Hmm.
it. They loved me pointing out that they are so responsible. They're super on it, and how they say it, like, you guys ate. That was like my phrase. You guys
Hmm.
ate with this assignment. Like,
Yeah.
everybody turned it in on time,
That's
and
good.
they kind of use that as a motivator to keep on doing it. So then it made my job easier because they motivated each other. And just
Hmm.
with something as simple as telling them you ate.
All you gotta do is boost their self-esteem.
Yeah.
That's all you gotta do. Just boost it. Acknowledge their wins. Acknowledge the fact that they're
Yes.
doing a good job, because most likely they're not hearing it from other places, and they're craving it. They're starving to hear some adult say, "Hey, good job, way to go, you did it. You could be successful." You're no, no, you could be successful. Like telling them you're good, you're smart. They don't hear it, and so
Yeah.
when you do that, they're like, "Man, I want more of that. I'm gonna turn in another assignment because Miss Vasquez is gonna, she's gonna give me a praise. So I'm gonna
Hmm.
get this assignment done. Here you go. So
Yeah.
um, yeah, just lifting them up, and it's just like us too. The people that we feel comfortable around that say nice things to us, we're gonna go back to those people.
Yeah,
I
for
want to be
sure.
around that person,
Mhm.
like so it's a simple thing.
And I think in teaching, a lot of teachers might focus on what they are not doing right, what they still need to attain, and it's always so negative. I feel like the vibes could either be negative or positive, and then as teachers, you have to choose which one you want to be,
Hmm.
because there's no in between. I feel like with teaching, there's really no in between. You either are complaining and being negative about everything, or you need to like look at the good in everything. And that
Yep.
is how I approach my students too. um, I I look at their good. Every student, no matter how disruptive or how misbehaved they are, every student has something good in them.
That's right.
And if you are able to recognize that, it goes a long way. My kids would often tell me, Miss Vasquez, thank you for giving me a good grade in math. And I'm just like,
Hmm.
hold up. I didn't give you a good grade. You worked your butt off. Like,
Hmm.
I was just guiding you, but you put in the work. And they often tell me, well, it's because you make it easy to understand and you answer my questions. Again, is that misconception of, okay, I teach it once and you need to be able to do it. That's not the reality. If they ask a question, it's not like I just taught it to you. It's the way that you respond. All right, let's go back to it. Which part, because you can't tell me it's everything, which part are you having trouble with? Let's go
Yeah.
back. How would you approach it? What did we talk about earlier? Do you need me to like do it another way? It's just all in the approach.
It's making them feel safe,
Yeah,
making them feel comfortable. They feel safe around you. They feel comfortable around you, and because of that reason, they're able to approach you and talk to you that way, right? Because if there was no safety, if they didn't feel um, like they could approach you, they wouldn't. You wouldn't have this reaction that you're getting from your students, and that's so important. I feel like that's one of the base things that everybody needs to establish is safety across the board. And that's, I guess, that's what you do.
yeah, I agree. I agree. If, it's, again, we go back to the curriculum and everything we need to get through and all the things we have to do, those things are still going to be there. They're still going to be there. But the kids that come into your room, they are with you more hours in the day than they are at home. You are their person for, at least in elementary school, you are their person for the whole day.
Hmm.
And if they don't feel safe around you, then, like, what are you doing?
Yeah, yeah. And I talked about this on another podcast, but um, I feel like that sometimes burnout comes from not being supported. I said sometimes burnout comes from being not supported, and I feel like it's not necessarily support from administration or people outside the classroom. It's support from the people that you're in front of the most, which are your students. If you're in elementary school, you're in front of your students for 6 hours a day. 6 hours a day, that's a long time, times 5 days a week times 180 days, that's a long time you're in front of these students. And if you haven't built those relationships, if you haven't built that rapport, if you haven't taught your students how to have good character if they didn't have it, or how to respect if they didn't know how to respect, and you didn't take that time to do any of those things, like you said earlier, you're gonna be hurting later on, and you're gonna be a world of hurt, and you're gonna try to correct these behaviors, and you're gonna it's gonna be a terrible year for you. So you got to make sure that the people that you're in front of the most, which are the students that you spend the most time with, that you get it, you make sure that you get it right with them. If you could get it right with them, and you make them feel safe, and you make them feel loved, and you boost their self-esteem, and you do all those things that you're supposed to, then you're going to have a good year, like the year that you're talking about,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, and I get comments on my post like, "How do you do that? Like, how do you do those things? You just say stuff." They tell me, "You just say things, I had this one person say, "You just say things. You say like this, blah blah blah." And my response on one of them was like, "Man, I've made like 600 videos. Watch any of them. like
Yeah.
about 400 of them were about like exactly what I'm talking about, how to do it."
Relationships.
Yeah, build relate. Well, about 400 about how to build relationships. I've have like about 70 podcasts. Watch other people talk about the same stuff that I'm mentioning here in these videos.
Yeah.
So, it's that it's just as simple as building relationships.
But I feel like sometimes teachers are afraid to be personal and be approachable.
Hmm.
And they often probably feel like if they make themselves selves approachable, then they lose their authority in their classroom. And it's completely the opposite, because your kids see you, they will see you as a person and not as someone who just gives them orders, because
Hmm.
that doesn't work. Being
Yeah.
an authoritarian and given the climate of right now, it
Hmm.
doesn't work. It never works, because there's always going to be students who are going to push back, and
Hmm.
they're going to push back hard because they know that they can get under your skin. They know they'll make you react, and that's what they are going to want from you, because that is often what they get at home.
That's right. That's right. I would have a problem with that too. Like being too friendly and then I lose authority, right? Being too that was in my mind. That was in the back of my mind. And so what helped me just as a teacher was like, okay, well, if I just keep safety first, then I don't have to really share so much. They'll just know that I'm keeping them safe. Like, here are the rules. Here's what has to happen. This I'm keeping order. If I go anywhere and somebody's keeping order, I'm like, I appreciate this guy. I appreciate this girl, right? This woman right here. She's keeping order. I feel comfortable in here. I don't even need to know her personally, or I don't need to know him personally. I feel safe. There's order. Easy. So if you're that teacher that's afraid to like, well, if I just open up, I'll lose authority. I'm so young. I'm a young teacher. I'm 20. I'm 21 and they're 18, and so I don't want to like, I don't. They're almost my peer.
Mm-hmm.
Keep safety. Start
Yeah,
with safety. Start with
being
safety. Just
consistent.
keep it safe.
Yeah, and
That's
I feel
it.
like a lot of the times what happens is, and I see this with new teachers, and I think it was something that I reflected upon my first, I want to say, 2 years of teaching. um, I would try to do a lot of things and trying to find what worked for me, what didn't, what worked for my kids, what didn't, table points and reward systems and all this
The
dumb,
gimmicks. All the gimmicks.
yes, that do nothing but they become a distraction to me, to my kids. So, third year, I started at a brand new school and I said, you know what? Forget this. I'm doing none of that.
Yep.
I am doing none of it. No table points, no nothing. Not
Yep.
zero. And even my kids, because I started teaching fourth grade, even them, they were like, do we have table points? And I'm like, for what? And they're like, well, if we do things good, then we get a point. I'm like, well, you guys are supposed to do things good already. You're
Yeah.
supposed to follow the rules
Yeah.
already. So why am I going to reward you for something that you're supposed to do? They were like,
Yeah.
oh, that's right. So it became a part of like, this is what we said we're going to do with our class contract. Are you abiding to the contract? Oh, you're not? Okay, what are we going to do to fix it? How are
Hmm.
you going to fix it? And it was always back on them. I am not going to tell you how to fix it. You're going to tell me how you're going to fix it. You take
Yeah.
ownership of your own behavior and just staying consistent. If this is what I said I was going to do, I am going to do it. If I
That's
told
right.
you like the third time that I have to talk to you about the same issue, I'm calling home. Which is like the last resort, by the way. I dislike calling home, and my kids know that too. So when I pick up that phone, it's like, you've tested every nerve in my body. I've given you every single strategy,
Yeah,
I've given you a break. We've gone to the counselor. We've done X, Y, and Z, and something's still not making sense to you. So then let's bring in, you know, the
yeah,
top guys.
yeah. You know what's funny is when I was a teacher, I hated to call home. I hated to call home. As an assistant principal, that's my first move. It's like, oh, you're in my office. Boom.
Just call your mom.
Yeah, it's just quick. I'm quick with it now. Just like,
Yeah.
oh, what? Oh, that's easy. Hold on. Let me give her. Let me give you. Her. Here's the phone. Talk to your mom. Like I'm so quick with it now. But before, as a teacher, I was like that was last resort.
And
I
I
even
love that.
prided myself. I prided myself on not calling parents because the kid
Well,
would
and
just.
I love that you said, "Here, call your mom," because I do the same thing.
Hmm.
It's like, all right, come to the phone. Do you know your parents' number? No, I don't. Let me look it up for you. I look it up, dial it, and I'm like, as soon as they say hello, I'm like, here, talk to your mom, talk to your grown up, tell
Yeah.
them what happened. And once they know that I'm for real about the phone calls home and like, I'm not calling home, you're calling home. I'm going to be sitting there guiding you,
Hmm.
but you are doing all the talking. It's a different level of like, oh snap, she's for
Hmm.
real.
Hmm.
And again, those phone calls home are very minimal because it never really escalated to the point where I had to call home.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I stopped giving table points, but one thing I did do was I would randomly bring stuff in.
Oh,
Like I would randomly bring stuff in. Like I just bring ice cream, like popsicles randomly.
donuts.
Yeah, donuts randomly, like you would with your family, like you would do with
Yes.
your family. It's not like my kids don't have to do all kinds of stuff to get donuts.
Yeah.
My kids don't have to
And
do all
then
kinds of stuff.
don't you get that reaction of like, why
Yeah,
why are you bringing donuts in today? And then
yeah,
I'm just like, because you guys are awesome.
yeah. I'll
And then they're
say,
like, what?
yeah, I'll say because you're in my class, you're my student. That's
Yeah,
why you're my student. You're
we're
in
a
room
family.
207.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're family, and here are donuts for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
That goes a long way. They
It
didn't have. They're
does.
like, man, I didn't have to do anything for this. Like, I
Mhm.
got this for free.
For
Like,
free.
what? I love Mr. Vergara. Like, he's the best.
Oh my
you
god,
know?
they would bring in. That's so funny because I save
Yeah.
spicy chips or anything that they are into at the moment. Donuts was a big one. Spicy chips, or I would just bring cookies, the giant
Mhm.
chocolate chip cookies, and it's just like they were doing math and everybody come get your cookie, come get your donut. They're eating and working, and it's a just because donut. It's not
Mhm.
it's not a reward for anything. It's just because you're here because and then whoever was absent that day, then the next day they would hear about it and they would say, "Bro, you were absent yesterday. Miss Vasquez brought in donuts,"
That's
and
right.
like, well, I didn't know, and nobody knew.
Yeah.
It was I had 20 extra minutes in the morning, so I stopped at the donut shop.
That's right. Do you have this is to switch the subject here. Do you have any problems with students using Chat GBT
No.
as a sixth grade? Because you're a sixth grade teacher, I'm sure that they have access, or
Mm-hmm.
you have
They
none of that, none.
no. A lot of our because I've been deep into the chat gpt world, I guess. I'm actually doing a second master's degree in educational technology at the
Wow.
moment, so
Huh.
a lot of the topics are surrounding artificial intelligence and the ethics behind that. So a lot of the conversation is if they can chat gpt it, then you're asking the wrong questions. um, so
You have to expand on that because
yeah.
I feel like Chat GPT is like
Oh yeah.
it. Even as a classroom teacher,
Yeah, for
you could
sure.
use Chat GPT. You could come up with a lesson like
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that
But
with
you
questions
have
and
to
answers.
humanize it too. You can't just like you. I don't know if you've dabbled with it, but
I have.
if you create a lesson, if you read through it, it's not 100% like how you would want it. So you still have to go back and revise it. if that was something that my students were constantly going back to, instead of discouraging them from using it, it's like, okay, see what it tells you, and then go back and make it sound like you. Go back and revise it and make it sound like you. Because if it's using some of those words that you don't even know what they mean, then that is not you. It's no longer you.
Yeah, but it's so easy to be
Yeah.
like, write as a second grade student. Write this at, these answer
Oh,
this
yeah.
question, copy and paste it, and answer it like a second grade student, and it will bring it down to a level where it's like, yeah, that's
And
me.
I think as
It's
teachers
about me.
too, we have to, with the technology world, where I feel like every district now after COVID is a one-to-one district. So before we were in a one-to-one district, and going to the computer lab was like,
A
we're
big
taking a
thing.
trip to the computer lab, or we have the laptop cart today. It
Yeah.
wasn't like we had access to it every single day. So finding the balance of the things that you do on the computer versus the things that you have them do in writing.
Mm,
Um, for example, like we do essays, right? Argumentative essays. We introduce them in sixth grade. A lot of the times it's like, okay, here you go, this is your essay, and then type it or whatever. I have them do a lot of the pre-work on paper. So like the brainstorming part and the outline, and then the research part of it. I print out articles. I don't give it to them on the computer. Maybe we watch a video, but the video is that's it. That's all you do on the computer. You watch the video, you take your notes, and then you put it all together. You make your outline. So then the outline, if it doesn't match with the computer once they type it, then it's like, what happened here?
yeah.
Um, but it's a lot of work because you have to have those conversations with your kids, and you actually have to be actively monitoring that they are um, putting in the work instead of
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that elementary school doesn't, struggle with that so
yeah,
much, but I think that as you get to middle school and high school, I would love to talk to a high school teacher and be like, how many of those papers are written by Chat GPT? Um, It'd be interesting to find out.
yeah,
I'm sure there's a lot because I know as educators, I think that every educator uses it. I think that if you're an educator who knows about it, you're
your
probably
kids know
using
about
it.
it.
Yeah, but if you're a teacher, you're probably using it as a teacher. You're probably using it to make something, to do
Yeah,
something quickly, um, come up with questions, something. And so I don't know. Is it? I feel like it's maybe a double standard where it's okay for the teacher to use it, but the students can't use it. Like
yeah,
I don't know. I guess you're a student. You're supposed to learn how to write, learn
yeah.
how to do these things. It's just
But like
crazy. It'll
even with in one of my classes, the one of the first classes that I took for this master's, there's a section where I read about like just spell check. Spell check is AI, um, and I think is the way that we approach AI versus like if we just stigmatize it, if we approach it in a way of it maybe using it as a tool to brainstorm as opposed to here's my entire writing prompt, like write me an essay, but you would say these are the ideas that I have, what can I use to do X, Y, and Z, and
Yeah.
here's my research and here's my evidence, like does this evidence support my claim, or instead of you know
Yeah, well, you could be like, okay, well, you could download 5 PDFs about a certain topic and then upload it and
yeah,
say, okay, these are all of my evidences, and I want you to take these
make
evidences
me an
right here
essay.
and then use this as a reference to write my paper, and I want you to write it as if I'm a fifth grade student. Write as a fifth grade student, and you could do that
Yeah,
easily, and
yeah.
it's just so fast and it's hard not to use it.
Hmm.
Okay, so let's just take your idea of spell check. right?
Yeah.
Who goes to the dictionary? Who goes to the dictionary
Exactly.
and so hold on, let me find that
The
word.
word.
That's
Yeah.
Nobody does that. Nobody goes to the dictionary to find out, you know, it's like, no, it did it for me. And I feel like that's how it's getting with these papers. I use it all the time. And the way that I explained it to you was like, let me get this article. Let's get these articles and help me. Like, it's so easy to use it. I'll give you an example of how I used it recently, and it helps me out a lot. Um, I still do it. So when I do my videos on social media, I'll type them up. So like I'll have a script, type it up, and I'm like, okay, that's what I want to talk about. And it's pretty like verbatim. I could read it and it sounds like I'm talking. So like boom, it's there. And I have maybe 3 years of me typing every single month I have 3 years of content. I turned that all into PDFs. I turned it all into PDFs and I uploaded it to chat GBT. All of them are PDFs. And I said, this is my voice. This is how I sound like. This is what I talk about. These are all things I talk about. Um, Using my voice and my ideas when it comes to talking about, I don't know, building relations with students with difficult behavior. What would I say? What would I say in this situation? And it analyzes all those papers that I already wrote. And it's like, this is your voice right here. And I'll read it and I'm like, damn, that
It
sounds
does
just
sound
like
like
me.
me. Uh-huh.
Damn, that sounds just like me. Like if it could write, if it could make like if it uses that, and then I get an AI to like uh for the video, it doesn't have to be my face. I could probably have like a private account that's a faceless account that just does sounds like me. It's
You can do it
crazy.
with Adobe Adobe
Yeah,
Express. There's a
yeah.
little animation feature and you can give it a script and it will animate this little animation.
And
So
Adobe Express.
yeah, Adobe Express educators get it for free.
Oh, I didn't know. So yeah, so like just it's just crazy that you could just use AI for so many different things.
We just have to adapt. I think we're just gonna have to figure out a way to integrate it, um, and I guess embrace it because it's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
It's not going
You
anywhere.
you
So
take the idea of encyclopedias. Nobody
exactly.
uses encyclopedias.
Why?
Encyclopedia. What are those?
For what?
Yeah, exactly. Like what am I gonna use those things for?
Hmm.
I remember my parents bought me a set, like bought us a
Uh-huh.
set as younger, we had a whole set, A through Z.
And you
You
know
know,
you were it because you had encyclopedias.
yeah, right? Look at my encyclopedias right here. Nobody uses those things anymore,
No,
and so
no.
I don't know. AI is just an interesting thing, and I'm wondering how we could actually use it in the classroom. And it'd be interesting to hear what you have to say after you go through your program, and
Yeah,
all the things you learn in that program, and you tell us how it's
I will find out.
find out what we're gonna do with that.
Yeah.
How's social media going for you?
Um, it's. I feel like it's exploded a little bit.
Hmm.
Um, I think after I started honing in into talking about special education and
And speaking
Spanish.
Spanish.
Yeah,
And speaking
and
Spanish.
Spanish. Yes.
Because when you start speaking Spanish, I was like, oh,
Yeah,
oh,
it was
oh,
crazy. I'm like, I could have been doing this a long time ago.
right?
Yeah, but I
Yeah.
feel like because my page is me, authentically me, I think I share about all the things that I love, all of it.
Hmm.
I'm
Hmm.
not just like a one type of content and that's it.
Yeah.
I feel like that's why it took me a little while. But after I started speaking Spanish and talking about special education, I saw like an influx of
Yeah.
everything.
I noticed. I was like, when
Yeah,
you start speaking Spanish, I was like, uh-oh.
yeah,
Now she's onto something. Now she's onto something right here.
yeah,
Because you stood out. You started to stand out when you started speaking Spanish. I was like, oh, that's a good yes. And that's not you're not even trying.
no,
Like that's not far off of who you're that's who
yeah,
you are,
exactly.
like, and I'm like, oh, she's onto something right here. This is it right here. This
I
is
feel
money.
like being on the other side, and I've shared some of this in my videos with my son, right? He's 4 years old and he was diagnosed with autism in October. So it's pretty fresh. It took us a while because he's level one, he's very high functioning,
Uh,
and he was misunderstood by many as like defiant and misbehaved, and almost made him seem to be like he was choosing not to do certain things. And now that we know we have a diagnosis, in the school did their evaluations, they came to the same conclusion. So I feel like everybody's on the same page now. Um,
good.
but being on that other side of the table as a parent, it felt very overwhelming. And then it got me thinking about my own parents, because my parents wouldn't know what to say during those meetings. Um, I am fortunate, and my son is very lucky to have
Hmm.
an educated mother.
Hmm.
And honestly, before going into our first IEP meeting, I researched and I used ChatGPT, because I'm like, where here is I cited idea, the law, right? The
Yeah.
special education law,
Yeah.
and I was like, what are the articles that I need to know? It basically broke it down for me, and I studied. I studied the night before I had an IEP, and it got me thinking about all the families that are not fortunate to have that voice,
Hmm.
um, especially right now with translators or the interpreters during IEP meetings. Districts are doing a lot of shady stuff because by law they have to provide an interpreter, a certified interpreter who is not part of the school entity, right? um, a lot of parents don't know that, and it's like, oh well, the secretary can translate, and it's not a good translation. um, and yes, maybe they are certified, but if the parent wants a separate interpreter, they can request one, and the school has to provide one.
Yeah.
um, and it's just a lot of things that parents don't know,
Yeah.
and I think a lot of schools take advantage of that, or districts, because of funding, because of everything that's happening too with special education. There's so much need for professionals in that field, like teachers, paraprofessionals, specialists, SLPs, psychologists, everything. I feel like they are bombarded with work. It's insane.
It's insane, and it goes. I feel like if we bring it back full circle here, we talk about how all the things are happening in downtown LA and the riots, and there, and it spreads fear, and then people stop sending students to school, and then schools don't get the funding, and then if there's no funding, then there's no SLPs, there's no psychologists, there's no extra social workers at the school. Hmm,
Yeah,
it's gone, and that's what we need.
yeah, for sure. It's like a vicious cycle, because one thing affects the other, and I don't think people realize how much need there is at our schools. Um,
Yeah,
it's
attendance matters.
Yeah,
I didn't realize how much attendance matters, but attendance matters, and it's just for this. Let's just for the. I don't know. Yes, your kids should be in school, but funding too. We need to fund our schools. We
and
need
our
we need
programs
our programs, definitely.
and the things that kids need, because
Yeah.
it's not even about. Um, and also, you think, oh, I see a lot of negative comments too towards like, oh well, the schools just want my kid at school because they get money, they make all this money. It's like it all goes back to the student.
Yeah.
It all goes back to the student.
It all goes back to your kid.
Yeah,
Yeah, it all goes back to the kids, all of them.
yeah.
Well, Laura, I don't like to go over an hour, and it's about an hour right here. And I want to thank you for being on the podcast once again. It was good to talk to you again, and it's good to see that your social media is taking off, and it's good to see that you made a pivot and it's working for you. And
Yeah.
it was good to hear that you had a good school year
Yeah, thank you
this
for
year.
having me. I know this school year was hard for a lot of teachers,
Hmm.
um, but I feel like with the right approach, um, it, it, it can turn out better.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast.